Drummers I Like podcast, episode number 23. Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast. What's up, Kevin?
What's going on, everybody? How's Richard tonight?
Richard's doing good. I'm just sitting here hanging out, enjoying a fine November 10th. It's nice and pitch black out right now. Kind of stoked about this new time change. Waking up early is a little bit easier now.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is kind of nice. It is much easier to get out of bed, but I hate the fact that I feel like I'm leaving work in the dark almost. I feel like I'm like, oh, it should be time to leave, and then I look at the clock and I'm like, it's not time to leave.
What time do you leave in the morning? It's like
No, I'm saying when I leave work to come home. But in the
yeah,
morning it feels great. In the morning it feels great, but in the afternoon I'm like, okay, it's 5 o'clock, and then I look up and say, no, it's 4 o'clock.
killing me.
So
That's the worst
getting
part.
getting used
The
to
days
that.
the days seem like they're never gonna end. That's it. That's what
But
it feels like.
we deal with it every year, so
Yeah,
we shall
we do.
endure. We shall endure.
We are. I think the whole country is enduring right now.
Trying to. Trying to cope.
Well, I live in California, and this is like a super pro Hillary state, and I'm not kidding you. Everyone looks like they're just. It's like I'm done. I'm ready to pull the trigger. They hate life right now.
It looks like they got punched in the stomach.
Oh my gosh, yeah, everyone's pissed off. I mean, it really like everyone is really angry. I don't know
Everybody
why.
needs to take a chill pill. Everybody needs to take a
Right,
chill
man.
pill.
Chill out, embrace. That's it. Just embrace
A
it.
lot, a lot of these folks, a lot of the and what's upsetting is a lot of these folks that are upset are also the same folks that you know they say they believe in the system and and they exercise their right to vote. So that all being said, sometimes you've got to accept the results when they don't go your way.
Right. Hey, you know what? We've had a very long time of specific families running the show, and it's just very. I'm not saying he's not a part of any of that, but it's just it's interesting to see it. Like you said, it's not working in the favor of the establishment, long-term politicians. It's kind of like the true American dream.
Yeah, yeah. Well, kind of like I mentioned when we were chatting before doing this intro, we started. He's got no political ties. He doesn't. He's not really tied. I mean,
Allegedly.
he's tied. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, allegedly. I guess you're right. I guess you have to look at it
I don't trust
allegedly.
any of
But he
these
definitely
dudes.
is not. He's definitely not from the political circles. You know what I mean?
Right,
Which could be
right.
good. Could be good. You never know. I mean, I'm not willing to go as far as saying I supported his bid for presidency, but I'm also not going to be one of those guys that's like, oh, burn it all down because Trump's president now. It's like,
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
it's going to go through the next 4 years of, whatever's going to unfold, but
I will say
I don't
this.
think it's going to be the end of the world.
Yeah, man. The only thing I'll say this: I don't care who voted for who or what you support or what you don't support. I'm not offended. I think that's the beauty of politics is it's very subjective at the end of the day. You can believe something, I can believe something, and we can live right next door to each other. What I don't understand is that I feel like I'm like losing half my friends and family because I didn't vote for who they wanted me to vote for, and that's just what's sad. We're so
Well, that's
divided, and
just, yeah, that's,
just
that's
at the
just,
end of the
that's
day,
just,
man, we should all just embrace it, work together. I don't like your politician, you don't like my politician. Who cares? Let's just go to work. Let's make the paper and make sure our families are taken care of. That's really what matters, right?
well, I don't know. Maybe everybody needs to take a lesson from like some sports because like I'm I know Richard here isn't into too much sports, but I'm an avid football fan, both college and professional, and I live in Florida. I'm a Florida State fan, and of course we have a big rivalry with the Florida Gators. But I always tell everybody, if I meet a Gator fan, it's like, oh, Seminoles, oh, Gators. But when it comes down to it, if you just say, hey, listen, it's like if we didn't have that rivalry, it wouldn't be as much fun. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah, I
part
hear
of the
you.
deal. But you have to embrace that, but you also
Friendly.
have
It's
to know how to
friendly.
keep it in check. Yeah,
There's a
it's like you
friendly. You're
want you
right.
want
A
that,
balance.
because it creates good competition. You have something to root for. It's within the state. You get feel like your team kind of what's the word? Your team kind of really represented your state well as being the best college football team.
Yeah, I hear you.
So
Yeah. And
you know
I will put one final point in. If we could only all just be like musicians, because think about this: you have a band, right? You have a guitar player. There's two guitar players, and those two guys probably hang out the most. And there's a bass player, there's a drummer, and there's a vocalist. At the end of the day, it's not like the vocalist goes down to vocalist county and only hangs out with vocalists all week, and the guitar players only hang out with guitar players because they only play guitar. Like we all like to play different instruments, yet we come together to create one common sound. So, a little food for thought. A little
that's
food for
right. That's
thought.
right. Just
Right.
kind of how things work. So, well,
Right.
I think everybody will start to relax as things, time heals, and once we get through maybe the next week here, everybody will kind of
No one will
take
care
a
in a
deep
week.
breath.
No one will care in a week. Something will happen. Something will happen on
Yeah,
reality TV.
yeah,
Whatever.
yeah. Very true. So, Richard, we have a drumming podcast that we're doing here.
I know our listeners probably have been wondering when we were going to start doing
Like,
that because we're so
yeah,
sick, but
yeah.
we have a really good drumming podcast with an amazing guest that I am like honored to have been able to bring on to the show. You want to let
Yeah,
them know who it is?
absolutely. Jessica Burdeaux.
Yes, the boss.
Boss.
Killing it
The
right now.
bomb.
Oh man, this is something I've been so excited for because her playing is super good, and I wish I could
It's
play
very
like
good.
that. I watch like an ensemble of different like I don't want to box them in and call them Instagram drummers, but I watch a handful of drummers that I follow on Instagram. That's the better way to put it. Before I play, sometimes to kind of get some inspiration. It's like 5 to 10, and I've definitely had her in the mix for the last couple weeks just because, kind of like you and me were talking about earlier, that she's got that feel. She's got so much power and strength, detail. It's really good. Really good to watch her play.
Power, precision, yeah, finesse to be able to play dynamically. She's just got I don't know, her ergonomics on the drums. I mean, she looks comfortable. She
Right.
moves
That's a big thing
fluidly.
too.
You know, yeah, you got to be comfortable. Can't play well if you're not comfortable.
Right. That's like something I struggled with for a very long. I'm still not that comfortable all the time. So
Well, you
kudos
got
to
to
her
just
on
keep
that.
playing, and you got to keep playing around until you find that spot where you're like, oh my God, this is like putting on a really comfortable shoe.
I did
You know,
it. Right.
you did?
No.
Did? Oh no, you're saying that should be the reaction. Yes, yes, that
Yes.
should be the
Right.
reaction.
Yes. I am reacting. Everybody. Yeah, but this
So
is yeah. It's good.
yeah. So enough of our babble.
Enough
Us
of our eight
babbling
minutes of
drummers.
babble.
8 minutes of babbling drummers here. I think we
Oh,
should get to the show. I think everybody wants to hear what Jessica has to say.
yeah, absolutely. Let's get this thing rolling. So
Let's do it.
without further ado, Jessica Burdeaux. Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast. Today I am super excited for our guest. We've been watching her play on Instagram for a while, and her teacher, Earl Talbot's like one of my favorite drummers ever, and when I made that connection that they played together, it's just been on ever since. So I'm happy to introduce Jessica Burdeaux. How are you doing today, Jessica?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you for
No
coming on.
problem.
You are a freaking awesome player. I'm just
Oh,
honored to be able to speak with you today. Really, seriously.
thanks. Thank you. That really means a lot.
Cool. So, like every episode of the Drummers I Like podcast, the real reason we brought you here today is because we wanted to get to know you. You know, we want to know about your history, how you got into music, how you found drums, how you got to where you are today.
Sure. Well, it all started, I was very young when my parents bought, actually, they bought my brother a little kind of first act drum kit, and I took an interest in it. And then when it came time to join band in fifth grade, I got to choose, which instrument I wanted to play, and I was already set on joining percussion. And from there, I I played in school band from that day till college. I mean, I never quit. So, um, and then when I got to junior high, though, I took the opportunity to join jazz band. And that's when I got serious about the drum set, because I hadn't played until that point. That was probably like seventh grade. And then when I got into high school, I did every band I possibly could, jazz combos, jazz ensemble, concert band, all of that. And I started taking some lessons. And then in college, I was a music minor, communications major, music minor. And I remember in the very beginning of college, I was very set on doing something with music. And then I started to kind of feel like I didn't know what to do. I knew I wanted to play, but I didn't know how to do that. And then I kind of started focusing on school and another career path. But then senior year, I played a jazz combo concert. And I remember getting off the stage and just thinking to myself, my gosh, if this is the last time I play on a stage, or, am going to be focusing on the drums, I was just so bummed out. So that day that was senior year of college, I decided I was going to try and pursue music. And then after that, because I was so set on pursuing it as a career, I met Earl through a mutual friend of ours. We're from the same area, and one of our friends knew that we both were drummers, and he introduced me to Earl. And I mean, I started taking lessons with him, and everything changed. I mean, the type of stuff he was teaching me just blew my mind. So since then, I've just been, all drums and loving it. So
That's awesome. Yeah, Earl is crazy to watch. I mean, I could definitely see the influence that you have from playing with him, but
yeah.
You really have your own voice when it comes to your playing. I wouldn't want to just say I found you watching a lot of Earl stuff, and now that I watch you play, you are just your own self. You are your own machine. It is insane. I'm like stuck here watching you play on Instagram while we're talking to you because it's just it's so much fun to watch. And it's cool to have your own voice. It's really cool that you're able to carve out a space on social media like this. You really are putting in the effort. And me and Kevin, drummers ourselves, we would die to be able to get videos up on the daily like you have been able to.
Yeah, it's been really cool. Thank you. And yeah, it's funny because Earl has said that to me before too. I've learned so much from him, and he teaches me all these insane polyrhythms and things that I had never dealt with before learning with him. And he always says that, I take these things he teaches me and kind of make them my own. And I do it unintentionally. I try and apply these concepts that he's given me into music that I listen to or like to play along to. And I don't know, I think it's kind of just become a mix of, because I grew up listening to a lot of alternative and pop punk and things like that. So my major influences were people like Travis Barker or Zach Farrow of Paramore. And so I think it's kind of become, my style has kind of become a combination of those types of players, and then the music that I've started listening to in the, for the past couple of years. So the things I've learned from Earl, and then, I never listened to things like progressive metal or jazz fusion. That type of stuff was all more recent, the past couple of years. So I think just with all of these things I've been listening to in recent times, they've kind of just combined with all the stuff I used to listen to and play, and hopefully just given me kind of my own voice, like you said. So
yeah, absolutely. You do, like I said, you do have your own voice, and I bring it up a lot on the show. It's, with the amount of people on social media alone, there's millions of people, hundreds of thousands of drummers, and it's not so easy to sound not like everybody else. And it's even cooler that it's been completely organic, because I can imagine sitting in a room like Earl or sitting in a room with someone like Earl, you're like, oh my gosh, I just want to be that. I want to be able to play just like that. So it really shows that you have, your own sense of playability rather than, just trying to be like everybody else, which is kind of the case with drum. Even for me, when I started playing drums, I had like a drummer that I just wanted to be like. And after a while, I felt like I was too much like him, and I wanted to change it. So, it's very cool that you're able to stay, on that on your own path without intentionally doing it. It's cool. And Kevin and me have been really talking too about your hand technique. We were a little bit interested in kind of how you develop that, and your thought process with all that.
Sure. So just technique, and I mean, I think it's kind of funny. It's not something I can really place as far as like when I developed it, or I think the thing that I was always just concerned about was learning how to use my fingers properly. And by that, I mean, I really just was always concerned with not forcing things too much. So I used to have, my left hand was much weaker than my right hand, and obviously I'm right hand dominant, and so I found that one of my biggest weaknesses was my left hand. So like my pinky would come off of the stick and stuff, and so I think I was just always concerned with developing the sense of symmetry and being able to really let the stick breathe. And so it's really interesting. I think that when I do practice pad warm-ups and things like that, I've just always kind of thought to myself that I want to just let the stick kind of do some of the work for me. And you guys have probably heard people say stuff like that before too, where learning how to let that natural bounce happen. And so I think my hand technique has kind of developed in a way where I just want to be able to, I just don't want to be forcing the stick to do too much. So I kind of found a way to let the stick play itself, so to speak. And I don't know.
We definitely get it. I mean, because what you just described is exactly what I see. I mean, the sticks are, your rebound is great, and there's just it all looks excellent, and it's all really clean as well. So now you did drumline all through school?
A little bit. My high school was really small, and I know at some high schools and stuff, you can, they have like a separate drum line. Like it was a requirement at my school because we were so small. So we didn't really have a very intense program. So it was very, I never got the full blown drumline experience, I guess is what I'm saying. So I did a little bit of it, but yeah, I wonder how much, because I never did traditional grip in drumline or anything like that. So yeah, but I did do it throughout high school.
The only reason I bring it up is just mainly because when I look at your hands, it looks like you've gone through a rigorous drumline kind of training, because it looks like you have great control of the stick, overall, pretty much all the time. And if you watch those guys, you kind of see that too. And they're playing, they really can work with the rebound and know how to manipulate the stick, just like you say. So that way you don't have to put a lot into it. You really let the stick work for you. And so that's why I thought there might be some drumline training in there. But either way, I mean, what are there some specific things that you kind of did to break down, kind of working with rebound or anything like that?
I think it really just comes down to the pad. I've really put a lot of time in with the practice pad and trying to figure out where my hands give out, and so if I can play, I find out where my right hand will max out playing a certain type of rhythm, and then I'll try and the things that feel easy to do with my right hand, I'll try to do those with my left hand and try and match the feeling in my left hand that my right hand has playing it. I really pay attention to the way, like even the way the hand, or even the way the stick is hitting certain parts of my hand, and I'll try and match that feeling with my left hand that my right hand has, so the certain part of my hand that the stick hits when it rebounds, or when I play a certain rhythm or rudiment or whatever the case is. I just really try and pay attention to how even it feels and how difficult certain things feel with each hand. And then from there, I just try and slow it way down and play it at a speed where it feels comfortable, and pay attention to what my hand looks like, or the feeling that it has when I'm playing it at that slow tempo. It sounds strange, but but if you were to go through one of my practice pad sessions, it'd make a lot more sense.
No, I get it. I get it. That's totally cool. And like I said, all the hard work has definitely paid off, and that's all our listeners. Just make sure you take that away from that. Practice pad time is important. So.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with the practice pad. It really it's made a big difference, and being able to see, ever since I started doing the videos, being able to see things that were, I became aware of a lot of things that technique wise I was lacking, or the things I was doing well with by recording myself. That made a big difference once I started to see myself playing on camera. I was becoming very aware of things I did not like or did like, so that helps.
Sure. One other real specific question I kind of had about your hand technique is your fulcrum on your second finger, on your middle finger? Like, is your pressure point?
I'd say mostly pointer finger.
Point. Okay, just curious.
Yeah.
It almost looked like it was it was utilizing a lot of that second finger. I was just recently watching a hand technique like lesson with somebody, and they were emphasizing how to really use that. And I thought maybe you were a little bit, but it's hard to tell on a small video. So.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely utilize like, it could probably look that way, because I really have tried to utilize all my fingers, like, especially if I'm doing things like double strokes or trying to, kind of force out like a difficult ride pattern or something. I think I rely a lot on all of my fingers, and it could probably look like I'm putting more pressure on that one or something, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Wow. I guess that's all my questions for your hand technique that I had specifically. How about you, Richard?
No, you know what? I really wanted to get into this kind of your journey with Earl, and some of the things that you really feel have impacted your playing today. I see a lot of it, but I'd like to know a little bit more. I'd like to get deeper into it, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, I don't mind at all. And yeah, Earl's the things I've learned from him, and the lessons that I've had with him, and just his wisdom in general has totally shaped my playing. And so I'm more than happy to talk about that. And I'd say the very first thing that I could think of that has had a giant impact on my playing is, he always was telling me to be moving my left foot. Like, no matter what I'm playing, be just kind of rocking my left foot, subdividing with my hi-hat. And with that, everything I ever learned from that point, the day he said it, was I would learn something, and if I could play it without the hi-hat, that's cool, but like I needed to learn how to play it while keeping my left foot going. And so since then, that's become a really crucial part of my drumming, is keeping that time with my left foot. And it makes me so much more aware of how I'm subdividing, and how all the parts are fitting together, and how independent I really feel with each of my limbs. Like, it's really made me aware of my weak, like how I feel about the way my right hand interacts with my left foot, or my right foot and my left foot, or my left hand and my left foot, and all of those things. That's completely changed my playing. And he studied in Cameroon with a man named Christian Bourdon, and he always talks about the method, like these African rhythms and the methods, and those are some of the most intense polyrhythmic things that I've ever. I mean, to see how Earl plays those things with such ease is just insane. It's so cool. So studying with him, Oh yeah, I mean it's just crazy, and so and I just to even watch him play has, I mean, totally just reshaped and changed everything I ever thought I knew about the drums. It's
Yeah,
crazy. He's
and
so
I gotta
good.
kind of cut you off right there when you say that because
Yeah.
I was just having this conversation with Kevin about being around really good drummers and just spending time watching an awesome drummer shed out with a bunch of other drummers or hearing them talk, all that information. It's funny how you could be playing one way a week ago and then sit down the next week and feel like a completely refreshed player with fresh ideas and a whole new jam to go with. It really blows my mind. And you bringing it up with watching Earl, I can just I see it. I totally get it.
Yeah, and he one of the biggest things too is that when I first started working with him, I was in a place where, I mean, I've always been serious about music and the drums. I've always really cared about it and wanted to get better. But once I made that decision that I knew I wanted to play professionally and figuring all that out, once I started studying with him, like I was ready to learn, but I was so I just had there was all the I would watch a video of this great drummer and I would think to myself, what, like, how are they playing that? How, if I was to watch Buddy Rich and see him play something super fast and crazy, or even Travis Barker at the time, and like all these drummers that are just amazing. I think what Earl did for me was demystify all these amazing drummers. Like I understood after seeing him and having him break down these rhythms for me and show me that I was capable of learning them too. It made me feel a lot more confident in my ability to listen to these other amazing drummers and figure out what they were playing it. And even if I couldn't play it at the speed they were playing it or whatever, it just made me feel like I was capable of learning anything, and even if it takes time and effort, but I was able to have that confidence myself to break things down and just take my time and learn those amazing parts that they were playing. So
Confidence is definitely key. It plays a big role. When you sit down and feel good about what you're going to do and feel like you understand it to, a very strong level, it changes everything. It really does.
I
Definitely,
agree. Yeah.
definitely, definitely.
But, kind of jumping back into that, I definitely see a lot of those real polyrhythms in your playing. And that's something that, I'd like to get into your understanding of those kind of things because, for me, when I got my extent of polyrhythms before I started really understanding them was like playing crazy periphery and Veil Maya rhythms with my feet and staying on four on top. You know what I mean? Like that was my full extent. And then I really started seeing these multicultural players who could play all different types of percussion. And I'm like, oh, there's that. Yep. Okay. It's much more complicated than I could even have fathomed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, especially because with the African rhythms and which all the I think when I started listening to more metal and bands like Periphery and whatnot, you hear those things. Uh, like I'll listen to these African rhythms and you hear those things in this current music and it all kind of ties together. It's amazing. It's really cool how you can hear a little bit of everything in all these different styles of music.
definitely,
It's
definitely,
it's yeah, a lot of influence coming from everything nowadays.
Yeah.
it's true. Just one thing I wanted to kind of touch on, kind of going back to your lessons with Earl. Do you work with him every week? Is it a weekly basis that you kind of get together, or?
Yeah, and for a long time, like for a while, because I started taking lessons with him probably I think about 2 years now. But we've kind of it's just kind of become like we get together and we'll jam and he'll teach me new stuff or we'll make some video clips and now it's just kind of um almost like he's just kind of a mentor now and it's really cool because yeah we see each other pretty much on a weekly basis and just kind of show each other what we've been working on. And it's really fun to bounce ideas off of each other and to just continue to learn and get all these new ideas. So yeah, we see each other pretty much every week and jam a bit.
That's cool. That's good. That consistency is good too. I think there's a lot of drummers out there that don't do any lessons or don't do any shed jams like that, and we just can't stress enough how important it is. It's massively important, and you got to do it. It's going to help your playing. So
it's cool to have that kind of a, he's kind of like a mentor for me in this whole thing, and I just respect him and his playing so much, and so it's really cool to be able to see each other on a regular basis and to have that kind of inspiration so often. So
definitely kind of coming into something new here. We'd like to kind of break down a little bit of your personal setup and your drum setup and kind of what you use and talk us through it. It'd be pretty cool to hear.
Sure. Yeah. So right now I'm playing a PDP X7 series kit, and then I've got Tama SLP snare, and I've got a pretty basic setup too. I always have used. I think maybe that came from what I was saying earlier about where my drum set is. I don't have a ton of space to expand, and so because of that, I've always played kind of a more simple setup. A one 10-inch tom, maybe like a 16-inch floor tom, one crash, one ride, hi-hat. So I've always kind of I think that helped a lot with creativity too, because having to find ways to make less pieces sound cool, it really shaped my playing a lot too. But yeah, I've been playing just kind of that basic setup for a while, but recently I added the second rack tom to my kit and a 14-inch floor tom to the left of the hi-hat. So I've been having fun kind of messing with that too.
Very cool. And what kind of cymbal selection are you using right now?
At the moment, I've been playing Meinl cymbals, and yeah, the Byzance. I have a Byzance ride and the Byzance hats, and they sound great. I really have enjoyed playing Meinl. So that's what I've got right now.
Well, so many people are. It's so funny to see. I mean, they're building artists like at a crazy rate, and all sorts of guys are using them now, and they're making an amazing product. It's like every time we go to another show, it's most of the drummers are playing Meinl, so it's pretty cool. They're doing some really neat stuff. So
yeah, they have great sounding cymbals and a really wide variety of cymbals, and yeah, I'd love to check out more of the stuff that they have. Their products are great. So
yeah, very much so, very much so. Well, Mr. Rich, you got anything on setup there? I know you like setup stuff. You want to know more about that Tama SLP snare?
No, what I want to talk about though is, the creativity part. I like your setup too. I play a very similar setup, and it isn't essentially due to space. It's essentially due to just not wanting to, or not being able to invest. And I don't really have the time and money to invest into a lot of drums right now. So it makes it really easy for me to focus on the smaller kit. But I too, I have a ride, hi-hats, and a crash on the left. And my crash, I'm just kind of always experimenting with different stack setups and stuff like that. But I got to agree that, playing on these smaller setups has changed my entire outlook on playing in general. And, I'm curious, do you even have the urge to move to a bigger setup, or do you feel like this is where you got it now?
That's a really good question. I guess at the moment, I think if I were to be on a stage and playing with some group that I'm, maybe I would want more of a complex setup, or maybe want to add a little bit, but not really. I think I've really gotten pretty comfortable with the way I've been playing the kit. I really enjoy having, because I mean, as far as toms, as long as I have like one rack tom and one floor tom, I feel pretty comfortable with that. I think you could get really far with it, and so I guess it would depend on where things take me if I would want to expand, but I really like what this type of setup has allowed me to do, and things like playing on the rims, I wonder if maybe I would have not thought to experiment with that as much, or maybe I just think it's really allowed me to um, create, especially when I'm doing covers or trying to write parts to my own stuff or whatever. I think that it's really helped me think outside the box, and I'm really happy about that. But you never know. I'm maybe one day I'd like to expand, depending on where life takes me.
Yeah, of course. I don't, if your situation always plays a big role. But what I'm really curious too about is that, you said as long as you have one up top, a rack tom and a floor tom, you're good. But do you ever play around? And what I mean by that, for example, is right now I have a 10-inch and I have a 14-inch floor tom, 10-inch rack, 14-inch floor. And I just maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I moved that 10-inch rack tom down to a floor tom. So I racked it off my ride stand, and next to it is the 14-inch floor tom. So everything's on the floor now. It's pretty flat. And
Oh,
kind of got inspired by one of our past guests, Mike Levine. He plays like a snare in the center, and he's got floor toms all around him, and he utilizes it like no one I've ever seen before. If you get a chance, you need to check him out. He is crazy with that setup. But have you ever tried doing anything like that, or do you keep it right on top always?
yes, yeah. I think I can't really think of a time that I ever moved that rack tom or anything, but yeah, probably the most creative thing I've done as far as the tom setup is put the 14-inch to the left of the hi-hat, and then just kept the 16-inch to my right. But I'm definitely not opposed to trying new setups or anything like that. Um, I think it's really cool when I see people experimenting with that, because I think that everyone just kind of has an idea in their mind of what a drum setup is supposed to look like. But
Sure.
I think just with drumming in general, comfort is the most important thing. So if you find a way that's more comfortable and allows you to be more creative or whatever it is, I think go with it. It's really cool to see people doing different things or mounting their cymbals different ways, or it's really cool.
Well, you know what? I until recently, I never really thought about it like this, but me and my wife have just started to kind of go back to the gym lately, and one of the things we learned, and mostly everybody knows this, but when you're going to the gym and you have a routine, it's super smart to change it up every month, right? That's what they say. So I was just thinking, why wouldn't that really be the same with drums? You get set to the same way of playing all the time. That rack on top, that floor on the bottom. Could it potentially be holding a drummer back by not changing things up every so often, just to acclimate yourself to different conditionings and playing?
Yeah, that's a great metaphor, and a really cool way to think of it, because say you end up in a situation where people are jamming or whatever, and you get thrown on a kit that has a totally different setup, and you can't always rely on, you have to be able to play on any type of kit at any moment, and not feel held back. And that's actually something I've thought about. Like recently I've started working with double bass, but I always want to make sure that if I was, to learn some cool types of rhythms and fills or something with a double bass, that I can still be equally impressive with a single pedal. You know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
just to be able to be ready for any type of scenario, and to be as versatile as possible. So, but yeah, the gym routine, that's a really good way to think about it, right? To constantly be adapting to that new routine or that new setup is it's a really good way to look at it.
Yeah,
So
you know,
we're gonna go
I
ahead,
was
Kevin.
just gonna, yeah, sorry, didn't mean to butt in there, but kind of touching on that, um, when I used to play in a thrash metal band, probably like '03, '02, '03, kind of that era, and my guys always used to hassle me because literally like once a month I would do something like that, like I'd have like three up high and one down low, or then I'd change and put two high, two low, or and I would just constantly move just into a bunch of different setups, and it definitely does make you start thinking outside of the box. But what I find now is from going through all those different configurations and trying everything, I've found that my two up high and one floor tom is like my absolute like favorite, most comfortable way to do it. And now I've pretty much just stuck with that. But
Yeah.
I think sometimes with doing that, you'll just find that one thing that you're just like, I like changing, I like doing this or that, but no matter what, when I come back to this, I feel like I'm home. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's better. It's better to maybe just try different things, and then if you're just confirming that the way you had it originally or something is the way you like it the best, that's really cool. Then you feel really confident in that setup, and if something or a certain song or a certain whatever ever called for a different setup, you're capable of playing it that way too. So I think it's great.
The only thing I haven't done though is gone the route of Levine and guys like Travis Orban and just completely put everything to my sides. It just, I probably should mess with it, but it's kind of, I don't know. It's a scary idea.
Yeah, and another thing I was just thinking about, like in moving the floor tom to my left, because the floor tom is obviously not going to give me the same kind of rebound as my snare drum. So sometimes I think I'm going to try and do some exercises to strengthen, ghost note exercises on the floor tom, things like that. I think will be really helpful, and it's cool to experiment that way to try and play things that I would usually play with my left hand on the snare, play it on the floor tom or something, and try and get my strength up there, because like I'm saying, it's much harder to pull ghost notes out of a tom than it is like a snare or something, because the tension is so much loose. So it's just cool to try things like that.
So we're gonna see some arrangements changing on some new videos, right?
Yeah, that's the plan.
Awesome, awesome. You know what too is what really got me into thinking that way is because pretty much my entire drum career, I was so in the box. Like I had this whole idea of what a drum set was supposed to be set up like, how it was supposed to be set, and if I changed it, it was like everything was out of whack. And one day I was in a situation where I wanted to jam with some pretty good musicians, and the setup was it was wonky. It wasn't like it was a bad setup, but I just wasn't there. It wasn't. I never played in that situation, and I felt the burn. And ever since then, I've really thought about that. Like, you know what? I'm just gonna change it every so often, and just in case. And it definitely pays off. So.
Yeah, that's really smart. I think it's a great idea to just, put yourself up to the challenge every once in a while. And I should do it more often as well.
Well,
you got plenty of time.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Well, plus you've been working on double bass stuff too, right? Was it not that long ago that you got a double bass pedal going? I thought I saw a video that was you kind of messing with some stuff.
That's right. Yeah, I'm very excited, because double bass is something that I've wanted to work on for a long time, and I think I just kind of never really put the pressure on myself to start, because I don't really play metal music or anything, and so I just always was focused more on things with my hands or single pedal or whatever. But I want to be as versatile as possible and ready for anything, and I really enjoy metal, progressive metal. I would love to, if I ever got the opportunity to play in a band like that one day or something, I would love to just be ready if that time were to ever come. So I just really think it's important to start learning that and getting comfortable with it, and just to have that, in just as something I can do. I just would love to experiment with it and see where it takes my playing. And so I'm really pumped to be working on that now.
Sure. Just kind of breaking that down. What's been your your biggest roadblock with the double bass?
Oh man, well, that's a great question. I haven't really thought about it. I think just at first it was, I think all I could think about was hearing some crazy fast 16th notes or 32nd notes, and I was just thinking to myself, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to be able to do that? And then I just kind of sat down and was just breaking it down and trying to go slowly, just to get my left foot not feeling so
awkward, kind of
awkward. It just was awkward. You're right. And so playing the left foot, keeping my hi-hat going all the time, it really helped to get my left foot more comfortable with that. So I think going into it was better because of that. But but yeah, I think just the biggest roadblock was just trying to figure it out. I never really, I've just never felt anything like that really. And it's a weird feeling when you go to play, groups of 16th notes or something, and it's just so different, but it's gotten a lot better. So I'm really happy.
Yeah, it's funny. It's a little harder for us to relate, Richard and I, just because we're both metalheads,
Sure.
and so our double bass drumming harkens back to a long time ago. Because I think both of us basically. I mean, I did some grunge, and I was 10 years old in '94, so I did a lot of playing to that sort of stuff that never really introduced into metal. But then metal came in like by the time I was 13, and then by the my first double bass kit, or my first double kick pedal, I got pretty young. So, but I can still kind of remember back to those first days where you're like, well, when am I supposed to use it? Like, and then you go try to use it, and you're like, well, that doesn't seem right at all.
Right. That's so funny. That's exactly it. It's just kind of like, okay, yeah, what do I do? And I think once I started listening to like Periphery, Animals as Leaders, all those bands, I mean, that helped a lot in understanding maybe times that it's appropriate to use it, or just how. Yeah, I mean, the same way you would listen to any other kind of music and hear little things that you're like, oh, that makes a lot more sense. So that's helped a lot. So I just gotta, I'm working on playing along with those types of songs. I think that really helps too. So
Yeah. Well, maybe sometimes it's easy to just reach back and maybe go away from some of the more progressive metal and kind of go into some of the more straightforward metal, because there I think you hear kind of it used in a little bit more of a straightforward manner. Like when you listen to almost like a hardcore bass band like Hatebreed or somebody, they're not playing as much syncopated rhythms and things like that. It's a lot more straightforward. And there's a lot more regular grooves that doesn't even require a double pedal in it, but then a certain part of the song will just have a rolling 16th note or 32nd note kind of pattern, and then you get to build stamina. That built tons of stamina playing back in the day, or playing to like some of Lamb of God stuff. Chris Adler's an awesome drummer, and he's got great taste on the kit for that metal style of music. So it'd be good stuff to listen to, I think, if you're trying to slowly build that up too.
absolutely, yeah, and stamina, right? That's one of the main things. It's just a very athletic type of thing, and it's you forget how much energy it takes until you get up from a practice session and your calves feel like they're gonna fall off.
Oh yes, the calves and the shins too. You'll feel that burn in the front of your leg, and you're like, oh yeah, all that lactic acid.
Here's the keys to the double bass castle. Go grab that Veil in Maya album. It's called The Common Man's Collapse, and go to that song
right.
We Bow in Its Aura. At the end, it has this rhythm. The kick patterns, it's just 7-5-3, but it's like digga digga dun digga 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 dun digga dun digga digga dun digga 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 dun. That will break you. You get that down, you can play any polyrhythmic double bass part ever and hold all that stamina. That broke me. That whole end of that song. Once I got it down, I was like, okay, I'm good. And then I met that song Bleed, and I gave up.
Oh, you mean Meshuggah? Meshuggah's Bleed?
Yep.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Playing hair just with his feet all day.
I'm gonna have to write all this stuff down and check all these songs out, because it's great to hear suggestions from people on what's helped them with it, and so yeah, that's really cool. Thanks.
Well,
I mean, you've got to check out time. I mean, are you familiar with much Meshuggah?
I've heard about Meshuggah a lot, and I think actually Troy Wright. I mean,
yes, absolutely.
I mean, he's incredible. It's unreal. So yeah, I've watched some of his videos, and I think I watched some Meshuggah covers.
Yeah, he does Bleed on there too, and it's like one of my favorite ones of his. Yeah, he does. He's
the hardest
amazing.
songs in the world. The hardest song. They're so hard. It's insane. He's a phenomenal.
They are. They're tough. They're tough rhythms. Yeah.
Well, I'll check them out. Yeah, it sounds great.
It's funny too, because you're kind of you're dealing with all these struggles with you're going through all the the basic steps of learning double bass, and I'm over here going through the basic steps of learning how to count with my left foot for the last couple of years. And you
right.
seem to have really being able to pulse and play around count on your left foot and just play in so many different ways. Being able to play double bass I think is cool, but I really admire the ability to work the kit with one foot. Some people will never need a double bass pedal, especially some guys I've seen lately. It's just insane.
Well, thanks. Yeah, that's really great to hear, because the hi-hat and just to get past that, where, because I used to have to think about it. I used to have to say to myself, keep your left foot going, or I used to stumble trying to play fills over my left foot, or so it's become something that's second nature now, and I'm so happy, because it's just really helped me it's just to have that sense of time and that coordination, and it's really helped me lock in and fix a lot of other things about my playing. And so, yeah, that just being able to lightly keep my foot rocking while even just playing, a basic rock beat or something on the hi-hat, it's just unbelievable how much it's changed my playing. So
I feel like it adds a sense of confidence too. It's just another confidence adder when you're playing. Like, I got it, I'm in time, whatever.
Yeah. When I go to sync up, like when I make a cover or something, and I'll put it into my software and be syncing up the audio file and the video, it's really cool, because it always reassures me that I'm playing in time, when there's a few measures of no drums and then the music comes back in or something, I still have my hi-hat going through those measures. And so I'll always know if I'm in sync with the track, and it's made me a lot more confident, for sure.
It's kind of funny that you mentioned, making those recordings, because one thing I kind of wanted to hear more about is the setup that you use to make your awesome videos. Kind of what you do for mics there, because I know I don't see normally mics on each drum or anything like that, but it always sounds amazing. It's always mixed really well with when you're doing covers with what you're playing along to, and I'm sure there's a lot of drummers out there, plenty of them that are making videos, that would love to know how you do it.
Yeah, I'd love to share that. It's cool, because it's a really simple setup, and for a long time I was just making beats and recording them with my phone, and then as I started to post more, and I decided to get a new camera and some recording stuff. So when it came to getting a camera, I got a GoPro. So that's all I use for the camera, and then for the actual miking of the drums, I have one condenser mic that sits a few feet in front of the kit, and then I just have one bass drum mic, and it's really impressed me how good of a sound it gets, especially like when I'm syncing everything up and listening to it through, I have a little set of speakers and stuff. It sounds great, but even just on my phone, like the balance is always, it always seems to capture everything pretty evenly. I mean, I know if I were to get some more mics on the toms and stuff, maybe it'd be a little fatter of a sound, but I've been really impressed with what those two mics are able to do. And then as far as software, I mean, I use iMovie and GarageBand. And it's done, it's done wonders for me. I've really been able to accomplish a lot with a very basic camera, mic, and software setup. So it's pretty good for that.
Well, I mean, sometimes less is more. I mean, what I like, hearing kind of about that mic setup is with one room mic a few feet away and just a bass drum, it just captures a lot more of the room and the natural drum sound to me. It seems like sometimes when everything's close mic'd and then they go in there and they really start, compressing everything and tweaking everything, it sounds great. It sounds good. But with that, you really kind of you get the essence of the room. You hear the drums sing a little bit more, and I think it sounds great. I think it's kind of neat just to do that basic setup and kind of to capture that. It's it's just a real, almost just organic sound. It's cool.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. And yeah, it's just kind of the whole approach I've taken to these videos I like that you use the word organic, because that's how I feel about them, and I like to think that it really is a matter of recording a take, picking, maybe I'll do a few takes, pick my favorite, and then just line it up with this raw audio. I don't edit the audio or split anything or put different takes together. So it's really cool that the videos are really a product of the one take. Like I like that it's it's just a very just an organic process, and so I've really enjoyed that and keeping it that way. So it's cool.
Yeah, definitely. Very cool. Very cool. Well, I think we're getting down to the rapid singles here. I think we've
Right.
made you wait long enough in anticipation. But it's really basic. I know you did say you've listened to a few shows, but it's 6 questions. The first 5 are just real basic, just to basically give our listeners good drumming knowledge. And then
Okay.
question number 6 is the dreaded question number 6, and it's a little bit more of a scenario. So we'll
Okay.
start with question number 1. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So what was the one thing that was holding you back from being a successful drummer? What was the one thing you had to kind of overcome to feel like you would really cross that line and you were really in that professional-esque kind of scenario?
I really think it was probably just the fear of the unknown. And not knowing where to even begin. When you say to yourself, I want to be a professional drummer, it's one of those things where it just sounds like a dream. You think that it's something that only some people will ever achieve, and it's a very scary thing. And so to just say, okay, well, I'm going to try anyway, where do I start, and will it ever work? There's no guarantee. So that was something that kind of held me back mentally. I wasn't sure how I was going to do it or what I was going to do, but I think that eventually, if you want something badly enough, you figure it out. And social media was kind of that place for me where I got over that feeling.
Sure, sure. Fear of the unknown, that's really what it is. You just figure, well, I don't know if I can make it go, so you almost try and hold yourself back because you don't want you're just afraid of what could go wrong, but really you just got to take the dive and jump right in.
That's right.
So question number 2, what is the best piece of drumming advice you've ever received?
Oh man, I've really received a ton of great advice.
There's got to be that one thing that sticks out though.
Yeah, you know what? There definitely is. And I'd say that was when I was, after I finished college, I remember I reached out to my percussion instructor and kind of just said, because his name's Bob Rummage, he's an amazing drummer, and I didn't know where to begin. I knew I wanted to get better at the drums, but it's okay, well, there's a ridiculous amount of content to tackle when you just want to get better at an instrument or something. And I remember saying to him that, I was trying to learn, wanted to get better. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if this was all going to be possible. And I remember him just telling me, envision yourself doing well. And I mean, it's kind of, it was about drumming, but it could apply to anything. And it's crazy how much that changed my perspective, because it's kind of fun. How often do you sit there and picture yourself accomplishing your goals, what I mean, like, or really believing that you're going to accomplish your goals? And so when he said that to me, I was like, yeah, okay, I'll start envisioning myself doing everything that I want to do, and figuring out how I'm going to do it. And yeah, this could work out. This will work out. And once I started to think like that, everything kind of started to fall into place. And it's something it's a, words that I live by now. I think that just picturing myself doing well in this and accomplishing what I want to accomplish, I mean, it's makes a world of difference than thinking that I'll never get there.
That's good advice, and that's good stuff. Question number 3. What is a personal habit that contributes to your success as a drummer?
Okay, so, well, aside from just dedicating myself to the drums and making sure I'm always practicing, and just making a point of being on top of it, and staying organized with practicing and scheduling and all that, I think that a habit of mine would be reminding myself that not every practice session or every video, there's going to be good days and bad days. Sometimes I'll get off the drum set and I'll think, man, that was great. I really feel like I accomplished a lot. And then another day I might think, man, that was the worst practice session ever, and I think that reminding myself that there are going to be those days and it doesn't mean anything, I'm going to get back on track and everything's going to be good. But allowing myself to maybe take a break, and instead of playing one day, maybe I'll just watch some videos, or maybe I'll listen to some music, or maybe I just won't think about the drums for a day, or take a step back and just not play for a day or something, and allow myself to not get too stressed out by maybe those not so good practice sessions or whatever, because I think that just coming at it the next day with a clear mind is better than forcing yourself to practice something that it's just because it's kind of like forcing yourself to go for a run when you just are not feeling it. It's like if you're going to stress yourself out, it's best to just take a step back and let something inspire you and get back to it the next day or something.
Oh, that's great. That's a good habit too, because there's plenty of drummers I think that could have a bad practice session or something that could kind of put them in a negative feeling getting up from the drums, and they will let it eat at them. And then you get a lot of those guys that are just, I'm just stuck in a rut. I just can't figure, you know what I mean? And it just because they just keep trying and keep hammering. And like I say, you just got to step back and maybe find some new inspiration or something like that. So that's great. Great answer.
Thanks.
So on to number 4. Share a resource or a tool that helps you survive as a drummer.
Sure. I'd probably say not necessarily. I mean, social media is amazing. It's done so much, but in general, just record it like a camera, just recording myself. And I was saying that a little bit earlier. It's amazing what you'll discover when you watch yourself play. And so I think that just having a camera or smartphone, whatever, recording myself and seeing myself back has been very helpful and made me very aware of habits that I need to break or things like that.
Recording yourself drumming is crucial, and even if you're not planning on taking it maybe and putting it up on social media, just using it as a practice tool. I know Dave Weckl, he used to set up in his shed room and set up like 5 cameras on him during every practice session and record every one, and then just go back and watch the entire practice session and watch all the angles, because you never know, from one angle you might see something you're doing and you're like, but another angle you might not see it. So he would do multiple angles and really break down all that stuff, and it would help him immensely. So that's a great idea, and I don't think one that's been mentioned yet. So that's good. So now question number 5. If you could recommend just one drumming book, what would it be and why?
That would for sure be African Rhythms for Drum Set, and that's by Christian Bourdon, who Earl studied with in Cameroon, and it breaks down all of the the polyrhythms and the Bakutsi and all these different rhythms that you've seen in Earl's videos and my videos, and the ones that really opened me up as a player and helped me so much with my coordination. So that book for sure is one I would recommend.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'll definitely be checking that out, because being myself, I coming up from rock and a little bit of jazz and a little bit of fusion stuff that I was exposed to. Really, it was always been rock and metal, and lately I've been just saying, I really wanted to get into different world beat stuff, especially Latin. I love Latin music. Yeah. But African is another one. That's a deep pool to dive into. So it's cool to hear a good resource to check out, to maybe expand some knowledge in that department.
Absolutely.
Very cool. So now we're up to the dreaded question number 6.
Uh-oh.
It's really not too bad. It's just a fun question that we've come up with here. Okay. So if you could imagine that you woke up tomorrow in a world exactly like ours, and you still had the same knowledge and skills as a drummer that you have now, but
Okay.
you don't have any connections, you don't know anybody, you don't have any social media presence. You're basically kind of reset to nothing. You have your place, your room and board's covered. You don't have to worry about anything like that. And you got $500 like just like spending cash in your pocket, and you got a smartphone and a small portable drum set. So where do you go from there?
Okay. First, I'd probably need about 24 hours to process the fact that no one knows who I am, and everyone's forgotten
Right?
who I am.
There's a first.
Well, once I got over that, that's really cool. So room and board, like all those
Yeah,
things.
you're
Yeah.
not worried about where you're staying. You've got that covered. You've got some transportation. You're not worried about like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get around? Like you've got some of that, and like I said, you've got some ad money. You've got $500 and a smartphone and a drum set. So that's good.
Cool. Okay. So what I think I would do, I think I would take this opportunity to do something to take a different approach that I have always kind of thought about. So if I'm able to travel now, maybe I would use that money to travel, maybe buy some plane tickets and go to the biggest like music cities, or I've never been to LA or New York, and maybe I go to like Nashville, and maybe kind of bring my drums and go to open mics out there or something. And I think I've always kind of networked through social media. I would love to be able to network with some people in person. And then of course, I would try and build a social media following again, but I wouldn't use the money probably to buy stuff for that. I would probably, with the knowledge that I have, and it would kind of be like starting from scratch. If I would have started from scratch, with the mindset I have now back, 2 years ago, I would have felt a lot more confident knowing that I was capable of like building a following and being able to get over the hurdles with my playing and stuff that I was able to. So I think with that knowledge, I would take this as an opportunity to not necessarily pick up and leave, but kind of like pick up and leave.
Yeah.
Go to these other places and meet people and play live more, because I think I've done mostly stuff through videos. So I think I would take that as an opportunity to play live and maybe document that with my smartphone, and maybe say I was starting my Instagram account all over again or something. Maybe I would document that journey rather than make grooves and stuff at first, because that's how I started last time. So maybe I would do that.
Yeah, well, just doing that would I'm sure jumpstart a social media, especially if it was like almost like an interesting, like almost becomes almost more like a life journal, kind of like a video journal or something like that, where you're kind of you know just documenting this journey that you're taking. And then that's interesting. You've brought up some things that have definitely never been delved into in question number 6.
Oh, cool.
So that's
Yeah.
good. But it is very much like you're starting from scratch. But it's kind of cool because you're starting from scratch, but you still know your craft, so to speak. So that makes a huge difference. And
Right.
that's pretty cool. That's a great answer.
Thanks.
Well, Richard, I think we've gotten to the end here.
Yes, we have. It's been quite the show.
It has. It's been a fun talk.
Thanks, guys. I've really enjoyed being on. It's really cool.
Thanks for coming. We really appreciate it, and we've enjoyed your playing for some time now. So it was definitely excellent to talk. And I know we've it took us a little while to get everything scheduled out, and we were even a little late getting here today. Of course, Richard has a good excuse for that, and it is drumming related, so that's good too.
Are you gonna
Yeah,
make
well,
me say
then
it?
it's okay.
Are you gonna make me say
Yeah,
it?
you should. I think you should tell everybody. I think well, I mean, it's good stuff. So
My little border collie is biting my hand right now too. Come on. Actually, my wife was on the Facebook has that marketplace now, and we've been trying to find like a small kid side drum set for my son. And in the midst of doing that, she came across a studio custom. How do you say it, Kevin? Is it Taya kit?
Tay, I think it's TAYE, right? Isn't that how it's written?
Yeah, that's it. It's a TAYE,
Yeah.
but it's like a $1,500 kit. And this guy had a 6-piece with cymbals, hardware, pedals, blah blah blah, like $200. So I actually lost track of time because I was trying to work all those details out. And Kevin's like blowing me up, and I'm like, what? Oh my gosh! And we're late. So, luckily, the guy was cool enough to let me come get it tomorrow, and I kind of situated it all. But it was like when I saw this drum set, it is a beautiful pearl white. It is in such great condition. You can tell this guy's just had it in its drum room for like 5 years, untouched. So it's like one of those steals. And if you're listening, anybody, don't go get that kit. It's mine.
Yeah, I've got to log off real quick. I'll be.
Wait a minute. That's great. But I just thought it was great that Rich almost missed a drumming podcast because he had one foot out the door to go try and buy a drum set. So
I would have understood, but
that's right.
I hope I'm not the reason you don't get that drum set.
No. I actually had it. I have an engagement at 7:00 tonight, and it was going to be cutting it so close anyway, so it kind of made more sense. And if I ended up not getting the kit, you know what, it is what it is, because something will also come up. That's just how it goes. You know?
If that happened, it just wasn't meant to be.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. But the guy's messaging me. He's like, "Nah, I'll hold it for you. It's all good." So
that's good. Fingers crossed. He'll have a new kit by tomorrow.
I'll be
That's
posting
right. Good
some
luck.
pictures. I'll post up some pics.
There we go. So Jessica, at the end of our show here, we always like to kind of give you just a little bit of room if you want to give some shout outs or some thank yous or anything you want to mention kind of to close the show out. This would be a great time to do it.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks again for having me and giving me the opportunity to kind of tell my story and asking me all these great questions. And then thanks to anyone that's going to be listening or anyone that's been following me and supporting me this whole time. It's amazing to have had people to share all this stuff with on this drumming journey of mine. And, like to thank my family and no, but really, actually, I've got a really supportive family, and thanks to Earl for teaching me all sorts of awesome stuff, and just thanks to the awesome community that is online drumming.
Yes, it is a great community. We often talk about it on the show, and the drum community is like the best community. It's like it seems like everybody, you're going to get those guys that are just trying to be a troll, but for the most part, in our community, it's a supportive one. If somebody sees something on somebody's video that they feel like they can tell them that might help them, or vice versa, everybody's kind of always willing to help in the drumming community. So that's always nice.
Yeah, for sure.
We're lucky. We picked a good instrument. We're lucky. We get yelled at by our guitar players because we take too long to set up, but anytime I meet a drummer, it's like an instant friend. So that's always nice.
Right.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Well, I think we've come to the end here. It's been great having you on, and we'll be watching for more stuff, and have a great night.
You do the same. Thank you. Enjoy that new kit, and and I'll see you guys online.
That's right.
Awesome.
We'll be
Yeah,
there.
Thank you. And also a big shout out. I see that big bucket of candy behind you. These kids are going to get lucky this year, huh?
Oh yeah. No, that's just for me.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
That's for like that's
be in the shot. My bad.
that's the pre-practice ritual. You pop like 7
Right.
of those, and then it's like, all right, I'm in.
Did I mention that? I can't believe that wasn't the first.
Good stuff. All right. Well, Jessica, like I said, good night, and we'll be talking to you online.
All right, sounds good. Have a good night, guys.
You too. Good night. Oh, what a show that was, Kevin.
That was excellent. Sounded like somebody was knocking on the door there.
Nope, I was knocking on the mic. Like 1, 2, 3. Here we go.
I like it.
Doctor.
Like a doctor of podcasts. I think.
Podcast. Doctor Podcast.
Yes.
So that was
This
great
show was
talk,
awesome.
Man.
Yeah, this show was awesome.
I love learning about her upcoming, or I love learning about how she got into playing. How she kind of got where she is now. I'm really getting into learning with Earl and what he's been able to do for her playing as far as bring it to the next level. That was really interesting, and it's just really cool to see that with what like her setup, her situation, she's just been able to do so much. It's really cool.
Yeah, definitely cool. I mean, there's as usual here in a lot of these recent shows. I mean, it's just packed with awesome, excellent knowledge, and she was very well spoken, and she knew she knew what she wanted to say, and knew how to get it across well. And I think it'll translate to a lot of drummers that are out there trying to improve their game.
Yeah, she's very well versed in drumming for sure, and she knows how to talk about what she's doing, and it's just cool that she's got the passion. What I'm hoping to see is, she's got a huge following base, and she's easily as good as many of the drummers I follow on Instagram that are endorsed and have tons of sponsors. So I'm really
Oh yeah,
hoping to
she's going to
I'm
get
really
some
hoping to see
calls.
her get she should. I hope those calls start coming in sooner. It's big for her because she's definitely got the skill and she's got the knack. So
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly.
yo Pearl, yo Mapex, yo Yamaha, holla at your girl.
That's right. Take heed.
Take
I
heed.
think, like I said, she'll get some calls. She'll get some calls for some gigs. You know what I mean? Her popularity will definitely be able to open up doors like that. And once you can start doing that, then those sort of things start falling in place. So
Right. Exactly.
that's the thing. If you want to get there, you gotta get out there.
Right.
So,
Right.
and I think we're going to be seeing that soon from Jessica. So
Yeah. We'll be keeping track of her. Speaking of getting out there, I wanted to mention that this weekend I went out and to a comedy show in West LA, and I met Dean Del Rey. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
me personally, I know because we talked about this briefly, and you'd mentioned he's been on Joe Rogan's amazing podcast. Just for any
All
of
the
your
time.
listeners out there
All the
that
time.
that don't know, Richard and I are huge fans of the Joe Rogan Experience.
Go
So,
Rogan.
but I can't. I mean, I'm sure I must have heard a podcast, and I just can't remember that he was definitely on with Joe. But I'm at a
Well,
loss.
for many of you who may not know, Dean Del Rey he's a comedian, stand-up guy. He does his own podcast. It's called the Let There Be Talk podcast. He's a big musician, but one thing that I've noticed he's made a point of doing is bringing a lot of drummers on his show. So I went and saw him do stand-up the other night, and I really wanted to have a chance to speak with him, and I did. I got a chance to talk to him outside, and we talked about drums. We talked about musicians. He seemed to be very passionate about the drummers, but I did ask him to come on the podcast, so
Hey, that
let's
would
see
be
what
an
happens.
interesting show.
Let's see what
Have a real
happens.
funny guy on here, huh? That'd be pretty
Yeah,
cool.
he is effing hilarious. It would be a lot of fun. It'd be a
Definitely.
rated X podcast for sure.
Yeah, we have to put the explicit warning on that one, I'm sure. But hey, it would be a lot of fun.
Yep, effing A. That's right. Cool, man. So
That's right.
I think it's fair that we close this bad boy down and call it a night.
So,
Yeah. Get on that drum set, grab it by the snare, and just do whatever you want.
grab that drum set by the snare drum.
Just grab it by the
Hmm.
snare, bro. When you're good at drums, you can do whatever you want.
Boss mode.
Ah, God bless
Good stuff.
America. All right, Kevin. Have a good night.
Hey, you too, man. We'll see you on the next side, and can't wait to check in next week with another show.
Yep. Thank you. Thank the team. Thank Jessica. And thank all you lovely listeners out there for putting up with our BS tonight.
That's right. Make sure you reach out to us on all the social media handles at Drummers I Like / Drummers I Like, Drummers I Like. Just find Drummers I Like.
Yeah. And leave a review.
Leave a
iTunes
review.
review. Yeah.
Yeah.
You could
You're
literally
pretty
just go to Google and type in drummers I like, and everything that you would ever need to find about us is there. You know why? Because we made it that way. So, Google it. Drummers I like. Drummers I like. / drummers I like. Review drummers I like. Be drummers I like.
No Drummers I Like.
Drummers I like. You're only God.
Oh, man. Now we're getting deep. Now we're getting deep.
All right, man. You have a good night.
All right, you too.
All right. Peace.
Peace.